Hi, my name is Bethany with Craft with Bethany, and in today's video I'm going to show you exactly how I clean my serger. This is probably one of the biggest questions I get asked because you guys know, if you've been following me for any length of time, that I am a stickler for cleaning your machines. I preach it. It's my pedestal I like to stand on because I truly believe that if you're investing in your sewing machine and serger, that the best way to help it last a very long time is by keeping it clean. So we're going to go over the best ways to do so. There is a product out there and a tool that a lot of people use for cleaning their machines that is an absolute no-no, but people still do it. And when I tell them not to, they're just mind blown that I even say not to use it, and they don't understand why. So today I'm going to tell you the number one mistake you're making when cleaning your machine and why not to do it anymore and the best ways to do so. All right, so let's dive into cleaning our serger, and then in the next video, we're going to cover the sewing machine. Two different machines, two different approaches. So today is all about the serger. And if you're not following over at the Social Hour podcast, where I am a host, be sure to go follow the Social Hour. I talk about this stuff in depth on a regular basis, and we talk about so many other sewing things. So be sure to join us over there. It's linked in the description below. Everything you're going to see me using today in this tutorial, I'm going to have linked in the description as well. So if there's anything that you have questions about or you don't have that tool, you'll be able to go get it there. All right, let's dive into cleaning this machine. Now, as you can see right here, it's been a minute since I've cleaned this machine. I was just picking through this just to see, kind of gauge how long it's been. And well, this material right here is what I'm wearing. And I probably made this outfit 6 weeks ago. It's overdue. I also have a broken needle from my last project with this quilted coat that I made. So it's time to get her back into good working order so that I can make my next project. Let's do this. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is obviously clean up the mess in front of us. So got a little trash can here, and I'm just gonna dump out these scraps. But you know what? Before I do, we just want to be careful when we dump out these scraps, because I'm pretty sure there's some tools living in this little bin under here that I might need. Oh, look. There's my oil. Sometimes I throw these things in here and I forget. There's my little brush. I keep them in here so I can use them, but then they get covered up. Look at this. They get covered up with threads and scraps and everything. So we're just gonna dump this all in here. Kind of made myself a little mess here, haven't I? All right, so now I've got all my tools found. I always keep them close, sometimes a little too close. So my little bin is empty. I am going to give that a good wipe out in a minute, but it already looks so much better just having all of that out of the way. All right, the other thing I want to point out is my machine is not on. When I am cleaning my machine, I leave it off because nothing's worse than having your hands up in this area and hit that foot control on the floor and accidentally hurt yourself. We've got a lot of sharp moving objects in this thing. And my machine is a smart machine in the sense that when this door is open, you can't sew, but not everybody's is like that. So I just want to preface with, it's best to start cleaning your machine with it off. And if you want to turn it on, but when you're starting to get done and just make sure everything's working right and working your oil and those kind of things, you can, but just make sure that your foot is nowhere near that foot control. All right, so first thing I like to do is just get a cloth. I'm just going to pull that off of there. And this is just microfiber. Some people really hate the feeling of that. So just use whatever you have, but just something that doesn't have a lot of lint and just really give everything a good wipe down. I like to just wipe down the whole machine. If you are not keeping a dust cover on your machine, I typically don't because I use it so frequently, but if you don't use it very often, just keep a dust cover on it. And just that way, it just keeps it less dusty and less that can get into the machine. But I like to give it a good wipe down from the outside first. And then we will do the same again when we're done, just to give it a really good cleaning. But you can just kind of get into all these little crevices and everything. Don't forget the sides, the back, especially around where the thread goes. This little rest where the thread is gets really dusty. I just give it all a really good once over with a microfiber towel. Just getting that base layer of dust. That way when we open this up, nothing's like falling down into the machine, and we're just kind of keeping our area nice and tidy. All right, so this is kind of where I'm at, and I just want you to see real quick. Just, if you can see right here, just there's literally dust and lint piling up in here. So let's uncover what's on the inside. As I mentioned at the beginning, I do have a broken needle. My left needle right here is broken. So we have a lot that we need to tend to on this machine, and yours might look very similar, and that's okay. It's because we've been using it, and that's what it's meant to be done, is to use it. The first thing I want to do before I dive into cleaning it is remove all the thread. So we're going to just snip all of our threads. You can leave the spools on the back, but we do want to remove all the threads from the machine. That means the top loopers, the needles, and the upper loopers and the lower loopers, all of it. So all my thread is getting out, it is completely empty, and the spools are not even going through the machine anymore. Okay, so now we're ready to open it up and see just how messy it is inside. All right, so I'm gonna pop my machine open. Now it may not look so bad from here. And I will say I have cleaned it on the very surface level in between some of my projects, but it is not pretty. It is not pretty. Let's dive in a little closer. All right, so you can kind of see some of the buildup on all of these parts, and we really don't want that. We want to make sure that our machine can really move and operate freely. I've got a lot of buildup around here, and there's so much back in here. I'm going to give you some tips on how to get to these hard to reach places. And then we're also going to really kind of dive in and getting that base really clean. Make sure we don't have any like loose needles, like my needle broke. I want to make sure none of the pieces of that are down in here. Those kind of things. And we really want to give this a really good wipe down as well. The best way to really get good visibility into here is to really open up your machine. So let's do that next. Okay, so my machine came with a little toolkit here and some accessories. So I have some new needles. I'm going to definitely put 2 new needles in my machine today, and I also have a little screwdriver that'll help me get these little screws off. We've got this little brush here, and then I also need to change my needles. This is the screwdriver for me to do that on my machine. And oh look, there's more needles, so we'll pull those out just in case we need them. And yeah, another screwdriver, an extra blade. I don't think I need to swap that out yet. I'm doing pretty good there. So yeah, let's kind of see what tools we have, and now we can get started with taking this apart. So the first thing I'm going to do is probably remove these needles because I just want to get them out of the way. And I want to make sure that I don't drop them down into the machine, and make sure when you are done removing your needle that you tighten that screw back up, that we do not want to lose these tiny screws. I don't know about your machine, but mine has the tiniest screws. Let me show you. That is the tiny screw. That is the tiny screw right there. So clearly I don't want to pull that all the way out. I just need to loosen it to get this broken needle out. It's not quite loose enough, so let me get it a little looser. And I always hold on to the needle as I'm doing this because I do not want it to drop down into the machine. All right, there we go. So there's my broken needle. It's missing the bottom. And now we can tighten these 2 screws back up so that I do not lose them into the machine because I do not have replacement screws. And I only have the 5 that are here because this is a 5-thread serger, and it's a cover stitch as well. So I use it quite a bit for both. And so each one of these holes, these 2 and these 3, all have those tiny little screws because I have 5 different needle positions on this machine. So now that I've done that, let's take this foot off. And this one just drops pretty easily. Let's slide the foot off. We are going to clean this as well because it's pretty grimy and gross and needs a good cleaning. All right, so got this kind of opened and out of the way. I am, just for my own safety, going to lower my knife, my blade here, just so I don't hurt myself. I am very accident prone. And I'm going to use my screwdriver to get these screws off. Usually just have to kind of loosen with your finger, and then they just kind of slide out. Do not lose these screws. Set them aside with your other tools in a safe spot. Nothing's worse than cleaning your whole machine and then not being able to find the screws to put the sewing plate back on. Okay, so now that I've unscrewed that, this should lift off, just like super easy. And sometimes you have to, like, most machines have a little extra lift here in that foot, and you just lift that up. And see, even the underside of this is pretty gross. So we're going to be cleaning all of this today. And now we can really get a look down into the mess that is my serger. Oh my goodness. I know it's dark in there, but trust me, y'all, it is funky. And when we start cleaning it out, you'll just see how funky it is. And I have seen worse. So if this is what mine looks like in the 2 months that I haven't cleaned mine, you definitely need to be cleaning yours. It might actually look worse if it's been longer. So we're going to take some time to really get in here and clean all of this out. Oh my goodness. Yeah, what a mess. All right, so my machine also has a free arm. So I just pulled this off and saw, like, it's just this dust and lint from sewing just gets everywhere. So I'm going to take a few seconds to really clean this out. And then this whole space around here is just got stuff built up in it. And I just want to keep all of that clean and not so messy. There we go. That's looking better already from the outside. So let's dive into this inside and get it cleaned out. Okay, so something else I want to show you is, besides removing this top plate and this free arm area, I have a screw here, and a screw back here, all on this side, that attach this entire piece to the machine. I have never taken this off before, and I've had this machine for, oh my goodness, at least 1.5 years, maybe 2 years at this point. And I've never taken it off to get back in here, and so I am today, just to show you that you can. Do you need to every time you clean your machine? No. And here's those screws, so I want to make sure I hold on to those. But you can see how much is sitting right here, and I really wanted to be able to get all the way into here, which is always really hard on this machine because of the size of it. So honestly, and I'll show you the back here, it actually looks pretty good. So I'm glad that I did that because I wanted to get a little more visibility. Do you need to do this every time you clean your machine? No, I've had this machine for 2 years and it's the first time I've done that. And I just thought, you know what, while I'm here, let's just see if I can. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised. And I think this cleaning that is going to be a lot faster because I took this off to be able to get all the way through here. And it'll give you better visibility of the areas that things can get trapped. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just give this a good wipe. And I'll probably do it again before I stick this back onto the machine. But look at all the grime that just gets up in there. I'm going to kind of wipe some of that out as best you can. I'm going to set this aside until we're ready to put it all back together. So as you can see here, this is really not that bad right here. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. It's up in here, all through here, and some hard to reach places back here that just opening this up lets me have easier access to this, which is very beneficial. And it's going to be beneficial for you to see where this kind of stuff gets trapped, but it's really right here. So you do not, like I said, need to take this off. But if you have never cleaned your machine and you have the ability to take those 3 little screws out, it could be very helpful just to be able to clean. There is some little stuff back in here. It's nothing major, but it lets me know, like, hey, this is pretty bad back here. If it is bad back here, I'm probably just going to get out what I can and then go ahead and set up a time for my technician to do a really deep dive with their special tools and their knowledge so that I don't mess up anything. But other than that, I'm ready to dive in. So let's talk about tools real quick that I use when cleaning the machine. All right, so my number 1 tool that I have on hand is my little mini vacuum. I do have this linked in the description below. Remember how at the beginning of the video I said that people tend to use something that they shouldn't on their machines, serger and sewing machines, and it's the worst thing you can do on your machine? It's blowing air into your machine with compressed canned air. You never want to do that, because if I'm doing that, even with this cover on, yes, some will fly out, but a lot gets pushed back further in there, way back in here, okay? So that is where it's going to get into your motor and cause damage over time, and then you're not going to have the ability to get it out. The reason my machine looks so clean back here is, one, because I do clean this out pretty regularly, but two, I have never used canned air on my machine. If I did, you would see so much more buildup back here. This looks brand new back here. I'll zoom in and show you. All right, do you see right here? This is the area where the sewing happens. So you can see the buildup here. This is the area that you can access from this side to clean it out. But look at how nice and shiny and clean this all looks back here. Like, it looks nice. And I use this machine more than any other machine I own. And there's nothing back here because I'm not using canned air to force all of this dirt back into my machine. So the number one thing I want you to take out of this tutorial is to never use canned air on your machine. Get a vacuum instead. So think of it this way: if we don't want it to go into the machine, we want it to come out of the machine, use a little vacuum. You're also going to want to use a little brush tool like this, one that has like a bristle on one end and a little spoolie on the other end. This is going to help get the stuff that's sticking to things, maybe from your oil or whatever, and then this little bristle is going to grab. So sometimes I'll reach in and grab and then use my vacuum to kind of get it off my brush. If you don't have a little mini vacuum, you could just brush it off on a towel or whatever, but you want to clean your brush off before you put it back in. Another helpful tool, and these tend to come with the machines, are these little mini ones. These can help you get in those tiny little places that are a little harder to reach. Maybe even use this to kind of pick something loose that you see. So you can definitely use these as well. And just for fun, here's another one that I have too. A little sweep away. This one's got a little bit of an angle to it, whereas this one doesn't. This one's a little softer and this one's a little more coarse. You could also just use a paintbrush, okay? So you don't need these fancy ones, and these are really cheap on Amazon or wherever you want to grab them, but I do really like this little rougher bristle one, okay? So that's really all I'm using, is these kind of little tools, right? My mini vacuum, which you'll see in just a second, and a little microfiber towel. You don't need a lot, but one thing you do not need is compressed canned air. That's the last time. I'm probably not going to say it again, but I probably will. All right, so the first thing I like to do is just kind of hit the main areas that I know this can go. This is not the smallest little tip, okay, but it is pretty small, and I can keep it near while I'm using the brush, which you'll see me do. This vacuum it's rechargeable. It does hold very little right here, but I don't have to empty it very often because I do clean my machine regularly. I just emptied it before this video, so it's empty now. We'll see how much I collect. And then to turn it on, you just press and hold. All right, and it's not loud. It's a good, I'm just gonna kind of get some of these bits around the bottom here. The reason I like this vacuum is it's a good amount of suction for what we're trying to grab, but it's not too strong. All right, so for noise sake, I went ahead and used my mini vacuum and kind of got what I could, just kind of the bigger chunks of pieces, and kind of cleaned out this area back here. And I just wanted to kind of show you, just from a quick little cleaning, I didn't even use a brush yet. Look at how much came out. It's all stuck to that filter right now, but so much has come out of this machine, and I haven't even used a brush yet. And so this is why it's so important to be cleaning your machines on a regular basis. So now what I'm going to do is take one of my brushes here, and we're going to really kind of loosen up some of this in here, and I'm going to try to do it the best I can with my hand out of the way. And one thing that you'll see me do from time to time is using my hand wheel, because my machine is off, using my hand wheel to kind of rotate the parts inside the machine so that I can reach new crevices and spaces and those kind of things. Now, I'm trying to not use this while I'm doing this, but I think I'm going to, because I'm getting a lot of stuff falling down. So what I'll typically do is come in and catch the dust with the vacuum. That way it doesn't fall down into the machine and make more of a mess. Okay, it is looking so much better already, but remember I put this knife blade down, so I am going to pull this out, rotate it up, and I just saw like the biggest dust bunny fall off of it. And I'm going to really clean like this whole area next and get kind of back in there a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to take a minute and use my hand wheel and just kind of rotate and keep a good eye on everything. And if there's anything that pops out that I'm like, yeah, I need to grab that. So just kind of make sure you're rotating your hand wheel towards you. And I do see a couple little dust bunnies that didn't make it out. Okay, I am really liking how she's looking. Everything's looking really nice. Let me spin you around to this side. Okay, do you see how nice and clean this is? It had like a thick layer of stuff. We got that out. All of this is looking so nice. I think what I'm going to do now is there is some areas that just have like that little peach fuzz dusting that just doesn't get sucked up by a vacuum. And I'm just going to wipe all of these surfaces down really well. This is another reason why I like to use the microfiber towels for this, because I'm not leaving lint behind. It's actually just catching the lint and just getting everything like really tidy and clean as if it was like brand new out of the box. Because we've just kind of, you know, even though we're using a vacuum, there's still a lot of dust that's like moving around and floating around in the air. And with the vacuum, with the brushes, you know, wiping things out. She's looking so good. I'm so excited. All right. So now that I've got all of this really clean, I'm wiping down this door really well. But now that I've got my machine looking nice, look at that. So pretty. All right, so I did wipe down this door really well. This little piece right here comes off, so I am going to take a second to just kind of wipe it off. Yeah, there's some lints and fuzzes and dirt on this side, so I want to make sure that comes off. All right. I am really pleased with how she's looking. I mean, this was an investment into my craft, so I want to keep her looking really nice. So obviously your machine might look a little different than mine because mine is an air thread. So that means that it uses air right here to thread the bottom loopers, and then the needles go this way. So mine does look a little different than probably your Serger. But the tips that I've been sharing with you and the tools that I use are the same things that I would do on any Serger. I would, you know, make sure I'm turning the hand wheel to really get good visibility throughout all of the mechanisms. You can still try to take this side piece off if you can. Don't do it if you're not comfortable with it, but just know that you're going to have to work a little harder to get back in here to clean out this area that I was able to access really easily with that side piece off. And then just the key thing is to make sure that you never use canned air. I'm going to say it again, never use canned air on your machine. So the next thing we want to do is just start to a couple other things. If you have oil, you know, some people are not comfortable with doing this, and that is up to you. I always recommend that you look at your manual before you do it, because better safe than sorry. Some people prefer to let the professionals do this part. And with these more modern day machines, you don't really need to use this very often at all. So if you're getting your machine serviced on a regular basis, this is what they do, as well as so much more, checking belts and cleaning out the motor and those kind of things. Just think of it like when you are taking care of your car, right? Like maintenance and service on a machine is critical for it to continue to running smoothly. Same thing with your car. So you take care of that just like you should take care of this. But if I were to put a little oil here, it would be right here on this little shaft. All right, so anywhere that I have a post like this going through another metal piece back and forth, moving it up and down. See how that's moving up and down? Well, I just locked mine in place because I had it shifted over. There we go. But that would be a place where I would want to put a little drop of oil. So I would maybe put it right above this and then rotate this several times to work it in, because I know that that's a place where there's a lot of friction and a lot of movement. And so that would be the only place. And when I put my oil in, it is the tiniest little drop. I mean, it's not even a drop. I just kind of squeeze and run it around the side. You may not even really be able to tell that I put that there, but I did. And I am just going to work it back and forth. And you can see as it goes down, you can kind of see a little bit puddle right there. So I know I want to keep doing that. Now, are there other areas that could benefit from oil? Probably, like back in here and up under here. That is outside of my knowledge and scope. Again, you should reference, that's outside of my knowledge and scope. So again, you should reference your manual, but this is when I would say, hey, there's a professional that knows how to do all of this and they have all the tools to do so. And so I am going to let that be something that they handle. All right, so as you can see, I've just continued to kind of work it in there and I don't see any puddling here at all. So if you do have a little puddling, just use your little towel, your microfiber, and just kind of soak up any excess, because you do not want that like running all into your machine, getting on your thread and onto your fabric. All right, so that's looking really good. And so what I'm going to do next is start to kind of put things back together. All right, so she's looking so good. The next thing I want to do is thread the machine. And one thing that I like to do when I'm threading the machine is run my thread through my tension disc a little differently. All right, so what I mean by that is as I bring my thread over and I thread my machine, my tension discs are back in here. Some of you may have like the little dials that you spin like that to adjust your tension. Mine is automatic. But my discs are still there, and so when I thread my machine, I always kind of take my thread and floss it through to make sure that it's in that tension disc. That also helps keep it kind of cleaned out from having any like dust bunnies. And I can feel if there's anything in there that I need to maybe clean out. So I am setting up my machine for 4-thread overlock. So I'm going to thread these. Now before I can thread my machine, I obviously need some needles because remember I broke mine. So this is my time to tell you that if you are not aware, there are overlock needles specific for overlock or sergers. You do not want to use regular sewing machine needles in your serger. You do want to make sure that you're using overlock needles. These are just some that I happen to have on hand. And so I'm going to replace my needles real quick and get my machine threaded. I kind of push on them like this, make sure that they're in there evenly. I'll use my nail to kind of push them up when I'm putting them in there to make sure that they are in there nice and evenly. They are not going to be even on the bottom. Or most sergers, I would say, they're not going to be even across the bottom here. One's going to be slightly higher than the other one, and that's normal. Okay, so now I'm ready to thread my machine. Once I've got it threaded, we can turn it on, do a test stitch, and see how she's doing. All right, so now that my machine is threaded, let's set that back. I'm gonna close it up. All right, we're gonna put a little catch tray here. Doesn't this look so nice from the outside when it's all clean and tidy? It's so satisfying. I'm going to change my fabric, lower my foot, and we're just gonna do some test stitches. That is looking beautiful, as we would want it to look. My pretty girl right here is ready for some more projects, and we're good to go. All right, so my machine is all clean and looks fabulous. I cannot wait to sew my next project, which I already have cut out sitting on my table right now, ready to go. So I really did need to get her cleaned up and refreshed and ready to go. I hope this video has been super helpful for you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them for you. Be sure you're following me over on Instagram at Craft with Bethany, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel because I'm posting all sorts of videos all the time. And the next one I'm going to be doing is the sewing machine, and we'll be diving into the best ways to clean that one as well. And everything that I used today is linked in the description below, so be sure you check that out, and I'll see you at the next video. Happy sewing!